we have seen that an overview of data science. What are the data and information? We have seen the difference between the data and information. Data type and the representation has been seen, data value chains. Today, we will going to focus on basic concepts of big data. Yero dabarre, atile chufalalle basic concepts of the big data can you fatinuafe arresalalle. So what's the big data? The big data is nothing but new strategies and technologies needed to gather, needed to organize, needed to process, needed to gather insight from the large data set, or the collection of the data set is so large. The collection of the data set is so large and complex, it is very difficult. It is difficult to manage by using traditional way of database management system. It can be considered as big data. Data set in Kenya, your data. Current traditional way of database management system ida manage gochun kan raksuted. Non-traditional. If it is a new strategy, if it is a new technology, needed to gather gochudaf, organize gochudaf, data process gochudaf, insight of the general. You can understanding a data set extract gochudaf can work on managing big data. So big data can utilize gafa that data can collection data can good data if complex day. Akasmotumo traditional way of database management system fayadamne relational database management system fayadamne manage gochun kan raksuyote. That's the big data. Big data. So in this big data, you may see large data set. Large data set means the data set is too large to reasonably process or store with traditional tooling or on a single computer. So large data set means data set is too large, especially to process and to manage by using traditional way of database management system by using a single computer. Single computer if relational database management system data can manage what you can that large data set. So our big data set is, or our big data can be characterized by the 4 V's. Big data can be characterized by 4 V actually the first V is volume. Volume means the amount of the data set that we have in our computer system or to process is very large. Very large. Means it can be only able to be saved by zettabyte file of measurement, or the data set that we have is massive in size. Hammisa guddaa data volume kan jedhu data hammisa guddaa. The second one is the second characteristics of the V of big data is velocity. The velocity. This velocity indicates that our data is in live streaming or in motion. If you consider in a microsecond, the time that I am talking about this velocity, suppose that then the different number of the YouTube files which is uploaded to the YouTube. Suppose that the number of the comments that is flowing from the behalf of users into the Facebook file forum, Facebook platforms, and also suppose that the number of the video that is uploading into the YouTube platform in a microsecond. This is in general indicated the velocity, some big velocity characteristics of the data in big data environment. The other one, variety. So this variety indicates our data comes in many different forms from the diverse of the sources. From diverse of the sources means the different file formats of the data may be structured semi-structured and unstructured. Data baka garagarar, size garagaratin, file format garagaratin argam. The first one is a veracity. The veracity means This indicates that the trustworthiness of the data, reliability of the data. Can we reliable? Can we trust that? How about the accuracy of that data? The accuracy of that data. Can we believe that? Is it believable, or is it good? Can we trust its source? This indicates that the veracity of characteristics of the big data, one of the 4 V's of the big data. And generally, the big data is characterized by 4. The first one is the volume, which indicates the large amount, the size of the data. Velocity means the data in the motion. Variety means our data comes from different file formats, from different sources. Veracity indicates that can we trust indicates the accuracy of the accuracy of the data. Accuracy of the data. This indicates in generally basic concepts of the 4 V's that we have seen in the previous slide. Volume indicates that data is at rest, means the amount our data occupies in our systems, which is volume. Velocity means our data is in motion. Velocity. Data is in motion. Streaming data in a millisecond to seconds to respond. The another one is about the variety. Variety indicates data in many forms, whether it is structured, unstructured, or maybe it is text. Different types of data, the multimedia. Veracity means data in doubt. Can we believe that? What is the accuracy of that data? Data in doubt. Can we trust the source of the data? Especially in this big data environment, is the great problem is the accuracy of the data. It's very difficult to believe the source of the data, whether that data is accurate or not. So another one is cluster computing and Hadoop ecosystem. Cluster computing. So what's the cluster computing? In generally, in computer, the cluster computing means the collection of the different kind of computers together, which share the same internet or local area network or worldwide area network, share the same data, able to process the data parallelly. So this cluster, the main object of this cluster computing is for the sake of load balancing and high availability of the resources, especially during the hardware and the software failures. Cluster computing kan jennu kun maalinni computer wata keenya computer Muhammad diqa fayyadamnu kana wal tarree ta'anii dalagaa tokko data guddaa ta'anii tokko share godhanii network tokko fayyadamanii process gochuu danda'an. That's what we call cluster computing. Cluster computing jechuun waan gara biraa miti. Computeraan kan keenya warri dalagaa dhuunfaan dalagan kun wal ta'anii dalagaa data guddaa tokko walirraa share godhatanii area network tokko irra ta'anii data sana process gochuu danda'an. Loadii balance gochuudhaaf resource kan keenya available gochuudhaaf keessattuu yeroo hardware if software failure jiru. Computing nu hojjetu maal jennaani cluster computing. Clustering jechuun wanta tokko groupiidhaan groupii gochuu jechuudha. Faayidaa isaan guddaa inni tokko load balancing, resource availability. Resource availability kun akkamitti argama? Availability kun computeroonni cluster computing sana keessatti participate gaafa data share godhatanu koppiiwwan data actual sana computeroota cufa keessa maal ta'a? Copy ta'ee nuuf ta'a. Maaliif data keenya yeroo computer hardware failure nu jala ta'u software failure nu jala ta'u back recover gochuudhaaf nu gargaara jechuudha. This is an example of pictorial representation of cluster computing. Computer kunam cluster computing jechuu dandeenyaan. Kuni actual data input gochuudhaaf nu gargaara. Kun data keenya kun memory isaatiidha. Inni kun maal jedhama? Name node yookaan master node jenna. Name node yookaan master node kun Hadoop distributed file system keessatti maaliif nu gargaara? Data metadata, data about information, data about the data, which means the information of our actual data can be saved or can be managed or can be saved by this data name node or master node. Kunni maan jennaani data node yookaan slave node jennaan. Data node slave node. Isaan kunniin data wal fakkaataa share godhatanii network wal fakkaataa irraa data process godhanii dhumarratti result tokko of argan. Look, computer kunniin cufti ka isaan wal ta'anii process godhan result tokko argachuudhaaf. Sababii computeroota sadii yookiin cluster computing haga barbaanne qabaannee fi result garagaraa hin argan. We should have to able to get the same result. Another one is about the clustering software. In Hadoop ecosystem, the cluster computing software is provide different kind of advantage. The first advantage of clustering software is resource pooling. Resource pooling means combining the availability of storage spaces to hold data in a clear benefit. To hold a data in a clear benefit, clustering software able to pooling the resources, which is resource pooling. It may be pool, CPU, and memory in order to manage or in order to handle our data properly. Resource pooling jennaan. Resource pooling kun maal inni nu gargaara? Resource storage space jiran bifa optimized ta'een storage space haa ta'u, CPU haa ta'u, memory space haa ta'u kanneen maal godha optimize godhee resource kan keenya manage nu godha jechuudha. The second one is high availability of the resources. Especially clusters can provide varying level of fault tolerance and availability guarantees to prevent hardware or software failure from affecting access to the data and the processing. This processing is especially important for the real-time data analytics. High availability could maybe in each and every cluster computing. Computer is able to save the copy of the actual data in order to avoid software and hardware failure. Hardware and software failure avoid gochuudhaaf maal nu godha cluster computeroonni kenna actual data copy isaan lafa nu kaatan. Isaan kun maal nu gargaaranii real time data analytics keessatti gahee guddaa nu qabu jechuudha. The another one is the third one is easy scalability. Easily scalable means clusters can make it easy to scale horizontally by adding additional machine to the group. For example, if the work which is conducting by the cluster computing exceeds their power, just we are able to insert additional cluster computing between them easily without affecting the process, any transaction that is performed among the cluster computing. Fakkeenyaaf kompiitaroonni kudha wal ta'anii dalagaa hojjetaa yoo ta'e kaayoo tokkoof hojii isaan hojjetan sunniin maybe dandeettii isaanii irra kan ol caalu yoo ta'e kompiitaroota gara biraa insert gochuu dandeenya, which is easily scalable. The another one is about this cluster membership, especially cluster membership and resource allocations can be handled by software like Hadoop. Cluster membership and resource allocation can hojjetu software Hadoop yarn technology yarn, which stands for yet another resource negotiator. Yarn kun maal nu gargaara? Cluster membership manage gochuudhaaf, resource allocate gochuudhaaf nu gargaara jechuudha. The machines involved in cluster computing are also typically involved with the management of the distributed storage system. So the other one is the Hadoop and its ecosystem. Hadoop ecosystem. Hadoop, what's the Hadoop? It's open source framework which is intended for the sake of big data management system. It is a framework that allows for the distributed processing of large databases across the cluster computers using simple programming model. And the Hadoop ecosystem kuni open framework ida malini programming model to ko fayyadame programming model to ko fayyadamuudhaan programming model to ko fayyadamuudhaan cluster computer fayyadame large data set access gochuu yoo dandeenye just it is Hadoop ecosystem. Open source framework program model to ko fayyadamuudhaan cluster computer fayyadame large data set access gochuu danda'u Hadoop jenna. Hadoop. So there are some key characteristics of the Hadoop. Hadoop ecosystem in kun faida guddan qabani faida tokkoffaa economically reliable sadaffaan scalable arfan flexible jechuun ni dandeenya jechuudha. So the first characteristic of the Hadoop, the first popularity of the Hadoop is due to its economical value. Means, for example, if we wanted to process the large data by using single computers, just we need HPC or high-performing computers. So in order to buy the high-performing computers, it may need high cost. So by sharing that works, which can be conducted by the HPC high-performing computers, we are able to conduct or perform by using cluster computers. So such like a Hadoop ecosystem provides such like chances for the users in order to use different kind of computers he or she has in order to share the huge amount of the data which can be processed at the same time by using cluster computing computers. The other one is reliability. This is the second reliability, the second popularity of the Hadoop. Reliability, it is reliable as it stores copy of the data. Copy data one Kenya. It's level jirani copy one data actually data process gonu save no gochudan malifi during hardware and software failure avoid gochula. This is the second popularity of the Hadoop ecosystem. The third one is scalability. It is easily scalable. Means just we can add any extra nodes which can share the work from the previously existing cluster computers. Dalagaa duraan computer kan kudha waltanii hojjetaa jiran sana wanni isaan hojjetan kan isaan caalu yoo ta'e clusterii gara biraa dabaluu dandeenya. That one flexible. The another popularity of this Hadoop ecosystem is flexible. It is flexible and you can store different types of data types which can be used later on. Data type gara yeroo boodarratti fayyadamuudhaaf akkaataa barbaanne save gochuudhaaf nu gargaara, which is the fourth popularity of the Hadoop ecosystem. The another one is the four core component of the Hadoop ecosystem. Four core components. In four core component Hadoop ecosystem, we have data management, data access, data processing, and data storage. Four core component Hadoop ecosystem keessatti four core component tutaqam. Tokkoffaa maal jennaani data management jennaan. Data management. Sadaffaan data access, arfaffaan data processing, shanaffaan data storage. This image indicates that the Hadoop ecosystem kun moduloota arfan qaba yookiin core component arfan qaba jechuudha. Akkuma jalqabarratti ilaalle data management qaba. Data management for the sake of data management, OZ, Chakwa, Filum, Zookeeper. This is Zookeeper is used to manage our clusters. Clusters jiran yookiin computerota keenya wal ta'anii dalagaa tokko walirraa share godhatanii hojjetan sana manage gochuudhaaf nu gargaara jechuudha. The another one is data access. The third one is data processing. The last one is data storage. Especially for the sake of data storage, HDFS or Hadoop Distributed File System and HBase. HBase kun maaliif nu gargaara seetan? Data keenya file format garaagaraatiin structured, semi-structured, unstructured save gochuudhaaf. HDFS data keenya maal gochuudhaaf store gochuudhaaf. HDFS keenya componentota lamaan qaban name node and data node. Ilaala boodarratti we'll see together. Let me see each in terms of basic component of the Hadoop ecosystem. Ecosystem keessatti inni jalqaba HDFS Hadoop Distributed File System. This Hadoop Distributed File System is used to store our data in our cluster computers. The second one is yet another resource negotiator. It is used to manage our resources among the cluster. Another one is map and reduce, programming based data processing. This map and reduce contains basically two functions. The first one mapping, and the second one is reduce function. The main fundamental role of map function is in order to filter our data and to organize our data. Then finally, the data that has been organized or filtered by map function can be finally reduced by the reduce function for the sake of data analysis. The another one data is Spark, Apache Spark. This Apache Spark is used in memory data processing, especially for real-time data processing. We can use Apache Spark framework. The another one is Pig and Hive. This is query-based processing of the data services. HBase is a NoSQL database, especially for the sake of using managing our data in different file formats, whether it is structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. The another one, Mouth, Spark, or MLibs is one of the machine learning algorithms library. Solar and Lucene, it's the searching and indexing. And the Zookeeper, as I said before, is used for the sake of managing the clusters, and the OZ for the job scheduling. Let me see what HDFS or what Hadoop distributed file system. What's the work of Hadoop distributed file system and what's the component of Hadoop distributed file system? This is responsible for Hadoop is responsible HDFS or Hadoop distributed file system is used responsible for storing large data sets. To store large data set, just with our cluster computers use HDFS. It's the primary major component of Hadoop ecosystem, which is responsible for storing large data sets of structured or unstructured data across various nodes, and thereby maintaining the metadata in the form of log file. This HDFS or Hadoop distributed file system consists basically two core components. The first one is name node or the another name of name node is master node. The second one is data node. The another name of data node is slave node. So what's the work of name node? What's the function of the name node? Name node or master node is primary node which contains metadata or data about data or information of the actual data which can be saved in the data node can be saved by the master node or name node. Metadata basically HDFS can component to Lamanga. Name node, Macan name node garabra, master node, data node, you can more slave node, Macagrabra, slave node, you need and or mother case and red, a casjaka Macan is in Shawan. Macangara name node in Ibra, master node, data node Kajan, slave node. Data node Marif Nugargara, Inikun, metadata, additional information of our data, which can be saved by the node data, is responsible to be saved by the name node or master node. Data node can Marif Nugargara, actual data. Nugargara, actual data can you save which of Nugargaru? Data node. Data node process can go on actually, has saved Nugumalini among the cluster computers. Another one is Yarn or yet another resource negotiator. Yarn. This Yarn is responsible for the sake of managing the resources across the clusters. Data Kenya resource Kenya manage go chudaf cluster bibut kanugargaru enuni yarn in actual. This yarn basically contains three major components. The first component of this yarn is resource manager. The second one is node manager, and the third one is application manager. So resource manager has and the privilege for allocating the resources, allocating a resource for the application in the system. Resource manager kun malif nu gargara resource application notarat jiranufi allocate gochuudhaaf nu gargara. The another one is about the node manager. Node manager, this is also resource allocation. It also do resource allocations like the CPU allocation, memory allocation, and bandwidth allocation per machines in cluster computing environment. Node manager in kun malini in resource manager allocate gochuudhaaf nu gargara garu akka resource manager resources jiran applicationotaa fi allocate gochuu don ta'ini resource in specifically allocate godhu CPU memory bandwidth computer kan fayyadamuu qaban amman close size allocate gochuudhaaf nu gargaara jechuudha. Another one application manager. This application manager can be act as an interface between resource manager and node manager. Akka interface nu gargaara jechuudha. Inni kuni application manager kuni resource manager fi node manager jidduu akka interface nu gargaara jechuudha. Another one MapReduce. This MapReduce function technology contains two basic functions. The first one is mapping function and reducing function. What is the work of map function? The map function perform actions like data filtering. It also for the sake of data groupment and for the sake of data sorting. Look, data sorting. This map function could dalaga malo data filter gochu dalaga kanena ka data grouping data sorting. Akkaataa isaa ittiin analyze gochuudhaaf tola nitti maan godha filter godha group godha sort godha jechuudha. Then finally the filtered data, the grouped data and sorted data by the map function finally analyzed by reduce function or can be aggregated and summarized by reduce function in Hadoop ecosystem. The another one is Bigdata life cycle in Hadoop. Basically, there are 4 life cycles in Bigdata in Hadoop ecosystem. The first one is ingesting the data into the system. The second one is processing the data into the storage. The third one is computing and analyzing the data. The fourth one is visualizing. Bigdata keessatti life cycle ota afurtu jiraachuun Hadoop ecosystem keessa tokkoffaa data ingest gochuu lamaffaan data process gochuu store gochuu processing the data in storage sadaffaan maali computing and analyzing the data. The first one is data visualizing. Data stepping kun hundi dhufa data kan ingested ta'e process ta'e computer data and dum maal gonna we able to visualize that data. Let me see each in turn. The first one is ingesting the data into the system. It is the first stage of data processing is data ingestion. Or it's the first step is to insert the data or ingesting the data into the computer system or into Hadoop ecosystem. The data is ingested or transferred to Hadoop from various sources such as relational database or system or just we can ingest the data into the Hadoop ecosystem even from our local files. Malini data staying jalqaba data ingesting ingestion ita jechuudha. Isa kana data kan ingest kan transfer goonu gar Hadoop bakka madda garagaraarra relational database irra ta'uu danda'a. System irra ta'uu danda'a, local file irra ta'uu danda'a. Kana keessatti in this technology in this data ingestion scoop technology. The scoop is used to transfer the data from the relational database management system to HDFS, Hadoop distributed file system. Scooping kenya maaliif nu gargaara data kan kenya relational database management system irra gara HDFS transfer gochuudhaaf nu gargaara. The second step is processing the data in storage. The second stage is data processing. In this stage, the data is stored and processed. For the data storage and processing, we should have to use, or our cluster computers use HDFS, Hadoop distributed file system, and NoSQL distributed data, which is HBase. Step lamaffaa kana keessatti data store and process data to store and process data. Erga store ta'e process ta'a jechuudha. So data keenya store gochuudhaaf process gochuudhaaf among the cluster computers keessatti maaltu fayyadamna HDFS as well as NoSQL database kan jennu HBase fayyadamna jechuudha. Especially in this data storage in data processing, we use Spark and MapReduce technology or methods in order to process our data. Spark fi MapReduce fayyadamne stage lammaffaa kana jalatti data keenya process gochuu dandeenya jechuudha. The third one is computing and analyzing. This is the third stage of big data life cycle, which is data analyzing. The data is analyzed by the processing frameworks such as Pig, Hive, and Impala. These Pig, Hive, and Impala is used for the sake of data processing in Hadoop ecosystem with big data technology. Pig, Hive, and Impala kuni data can analyze gochuuf nu gargaara jechuudha. Step sadaffaa kana jalatti. Especially this Pig converts the data using a map and reduce, then finally analyze it. Pig kun maaliif nu gargaara data keenya map gochuudhaan finally reduce godhe data keenya analyze gochuudhaan nu gargaara jechuudha. Pig technology. Another one is Hive. It's also based on the map and reduce programming, and especially it is very important in order to analyze the structured data. Data can always structure kan ta'u ta'e step kana jalatti Hive fayyadamne technology map and reduce fayyadamuudhaan cluster computeroonni keenya data process gochuu danda'a jechuudha. Data structure. The fourth one and the last one is visualizing the result. The fourth stage is access, which is performed by tools such as Hue and Cloudera Search. So finally, the end users or our cluster computers use Hue and Cloudera Search in order to display the final results for the end users. Cluster computer can Hue and Cloudera Search fayyadamuudhaan result is user can display what you need. In this stage or in this visualizing stage, the analyzed data can be accessed by the users. Useroon kan keenya data isa dhumaa kana access gochuu danda'u jechuudha. This is the last big data life cycles in Hadoop ecosystem. This brings us to the end of the chapter 2. Listener, or thank you my good YouTube followers. If you have comments, suggestions, don't hesitate to give me a comment. And even don't forget to subscribe. Please share it for your users or classmates and for your relatives. Comment gochuun dagatina, subscribe gochuun dagatina, hiriyoota keessaniif share gochuun dagatina. Bye bye, I love you. Yeroo dhiyoo keessatti chapter sadaffaadhaan deebinee kana wal arginu taana. Yeroo gaarii isiniif haa ta'u, isin jaaladha. Nagaannaaf tura.